By the late 2nd century AD, the Roman Empire was at its greatest territorial extent. It controlled most of the Mediterranean world and had a highly developed system of roads, taxation, and administration. Travel within the empire was relatively safe. Roman law applied across vast distances, and local governors enforced imperial authority. To most inhabitants, Rome appeared stable and permanent. Daily life for most Romans was local and practical. People focused on farming, trade, and family life. Markets operated regularly, cities functioned, and imperial soldiers maintained order. Because daily routines continued without disruption, there was little sense among the population that the empire was entering a period of decline. Rome relied on cooperation between the central government and local elites. In exchange for taxes and loyalty, Rome provided security and legal order. As long as officials enforced laws consistently, public trust in the system remained strong. This trust was essential. Without it, imperial authority depended solely on force. Emperor Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD after a long reign marked by war and plague. Despite these challenges, the empire remained intact. His death did not cause immediate instability. However, the succession marked an important change. Power passed to his biological son Commodus, rather than a carefully chosen successor. Commodus lacked the military and administrative experience of earlier emperors. He showed little interest in governing and increasingly distanced himself from state affairs. Court politics became dominated by personal loyalty rather than competence. This shift weakened the effectiveness of imperial administration. As Commodus withdrew from governance, corruption increased. Public offices were sold. Legal decisions were influenced by bribery. Provincial governors prioritized personal profit over long-term stability. These changes did not immediately disrupt daily life, but they undermined institutional reliability. Commodus regularly appeared as a gladiator in public games. Although the events were staged, this behavior damaged the dignity of the imperial office. The emperor was no longer seen primarily as a ruler, but as a performer. This weakened respect for imperial authority, especially among elites and military leaders. Commodus was assassinated in 192 AD by members of his inner circle. His death created a power vacuum. No clear system existed for peaceful succession. This marked the beginning of a period in which emperors would rise and fall rapidly. Following Commodus's death, Roman armies began openly supporting rival claimants to the throne. Soldiers realized their loyalty could determine who became emperor. As a result, military allegiance became transactional rather than institutional. This politicization of the army destabilized imperial rule. The Praetorian Guard, originally created to protect the emperor, became a political force. They deposed emperors, installed new ones, and demanded financial rewards. In one instance, the imperial throne was effectively auctioned. Central authority in Rome was now deeply compromised. Romans remembered earlier periods of instability, especially the reign of Nero. Nero's rule demonstrated how unchecked imperial power and poor leadership could damage the state. These memories shaped how Romans understood the crisis unfolding in their own time. From the mid-3rd century onward, the empire experienced near constant instability. Emperors changed frequently. Civil wars overlapped with foreign invasions. Trade networks weakened, and cities declined in population. This period is known as the 3rd century crisis. Plagues, warfare, and heavy taxation reduced population levels. Agricultural production declined. Coinage was devalued. Economic confidence weakened. Communities became increasingly self-reliant as imperial support diminished. Diocletian came to power in 284 AD. He introduced sweeping reforms to stabilize the empire. Administrative authority was centralized. The empire was divided into regions for easier control. These reforms restored order, but increased state control over daily life. Under Diocletian, occupations became hereditary. Farmers, soldiers, and artisans were legally bound to their professions. This ensured tax stability, but reduced personal freedom. Roman society became more rigid and less adaptable. As imperial institutions weakened, people relied more on local communities. family, village, and regional identity became more important than loyalty to Rome itself. This shift reduced emotional attachment to the empire. By the early 4th century, the Roman Empire still appeared powerful. Its borders remained extensive. Its cities still stood. However, internal cohesion had weakened. The administrative structures of empire remained in place, but the shared belief that sustained them was steadily eroding. To understand how this loss of cohesion translated into irreversible collapse, it is necessary to examine the Roman army itself, a force that had once secured the empire and would soon become central to its fragmentation. That is the focus of Part 2.